What's going on, guys? It's Groove back again with another video, and today we're going over part 2 of the bullish case for Bitcoin. So in the first part, we went over a little bit about why Bitcoin, how it came to be, the history of digital cash. People have been looking for this digital scarcity since the 1980s. And then in the second half of this book, he goes over some misconceptions that people may have about Bitcoin as a whole. So that's what we're going to be going over today. So the first misconception, people ask, is Bitcoin a bubble? Is it just going to pop and go to zero? Everybody just keeps thinking it's going to go to zero. It's going to go to zero. Why even put my money into it? It's a bubble. It's very volatile. And so he says that at the beginning, Bitcoin acted like a penny stock. It was super volatile in 2010, 11, and 12. Nobody knew what it was going to do. Nobody knew what it was going to become. But Bitcoin works on 4-year cycles. So every halving happens every 4 years. And over the last 15 years, every time Bitcoin runs 3 years up, 1 year down, 3 years up, 1 year down. And every 4 years, that one down year gets less and less volatile. So he says that over time, Bitcoin will become less volatile. So another misconception he always gets is Bitcoin expensive to buy? Or it is expensive to buy, especially now, because it's like, I think one coin costs $60,000, and that's just like, to so many people, like, how am I ever going to come up with that much money to get a Bitcoin? But you don't need to get an entire coin. So every coin is split up into 100 million Satoshis. So you can buy $1 worth of Bitcoin and just, keep buying it over time like that, or however much you want to buy. You don't need to get a whole one. And so he says it's something about the human condition. We always want a whole one. And so this is why a lot of people will disregard Bitcoin, and then they'll go to whatever other coin, because they're like, well, why get, 1/10 of a Bitcoin or 1/50th of a Bitcoin when I could just put the same money over here into this cat coin and get 50 million coins? Because we always want, we want a whole one. And so he says it's part of the human nature. We always want a whole one. And if we can't get a whole one, we don't even want to mess with it. But you don't have to buy a whole one. You can buy as little amount as you want. So another misconception, or something that people often ask, is, does Bitcoin use too much energy? Is it bad for the environment? And for a long time, people really, especially the mainstream media, they really kind of tried to go after Bitcoin, saying it was bad for the environment. But it's not bad for the environment. When it comes to energy usage, Bitcoin uses about 105 terawatts of energy per hour. But when it comes to gold uses almost 500 terawatts. So, Bitcoin is kind of like gold right now. It's a digital store of value, and it uses way less energy than gold. Not only that, gold is actually bad for the environment. Digging all of that out of the ground or out of the earth is actually bad for the environment. Where it comes to Bitcoin, all you need is computers and some software, and you can mine it anywhere that you have an internet connection. And currently, right now, El Salvador is mining Bitcoin using their volcano. They're using an energy source that is already given to us from the planet to mine Bitcoin. So you don't even need to pull energy from other places. You can use like a waterfall or a volcano or some type of energy source that's already here, abundant on the planet. With El Salvador mining Bitcoin from a volcano, he says that Bitcoin can use, again, these natural resources that we have as far as energy producing, and it can store that energy into Bitcoin, and you can use Bitcoin like a battery and then send it to places that don't have good electricity or good energy. And so again, it uses energy that the earth provides for us, and then it can store that up and then send it to where energy is not abundant. And so it's actually beneficial for the entire planet to mine Bitcoin from these places. And I was thinking about that too. I'm just like, man, just learning so much about Bitcoin, it's kind of crazy the ways you can get it and how you can use it. It's not just a money. You can use it for all different types of things as far as energy goes, because that's all it is just digital energy. The fact that you can go on your phone right now and buy this stuff, like in the future, this stuff is going to be, you're not going to be able to buy it on an exchange in the future. There's only so much of it to go around, and then it's going to be so expensive that, again, you're not even going to be able to get your hands on any of it. It's just wild to think about, like, all the different rabbit holes that you go down, how great this thing is as a whole to the planet. He talks about how Bitcoin is a fair and equal system for the entire world to use. Whatever country you're born into, you're kind of bullied by the government to use that currency, for better or worse. If you're born into America, if you're born into, a Western country, you kind of hit the lottery, Because imagine being born in Venezuela or being born in Nigeria where you have to use their monetary currency. You don't have any other choice, and it just turns to crap every day or every week. The currency just fails or keeps falling on its face. And you know, it is happening in first world countries, but even just being in those first world countries, you kind of have it better than everybody else. But Bitcoin is great, and it's better for the entire world, and it's free. And again, you don't have to coerce somebody into use it. It's a fair system that everybody can use. You know, you don't need a government or police to tell you that you will use this currency. So another big misconception is risk to the protocol. So risk to Bitcoin. Can it be hacked? Can somebody break into it? Can somebody crack it? And he says there was a lot of big risks at the beginning of the life of Bitcoin. So probably like 2010, 2011. But he says that all of those threats, they can never break it. They can never crack it. And then along with that, every 10 minutes that somebody finds another block that pulls out Bitcoin from the system, it gets harder and harder and harder every 10 minutes to find a new block. And so it gets harder to break. So every 10 minutes, Bitcoin adds another link to that blockchain. And if you haven't broken it in the last 10 minutes, it's going to be even more harder in another 10 minutes. So this thing it's like a self-security. It just gets stronger and harder every 10 minutes that goes by. And so again, if you didn't crack it the last 10 minutes, it's just going to be that much harder, even more harder to crack it in another 10 minutes. So this thing it's unhackable. It's never been hacked. It's never been down. It's been running 365, 24/7 over the last 15 years. And I'm pretty sure there are countries that have been paying people, hey, get into this, crack this system. We need this stuff. And nobody's been able to crack it or get into it. And again, like I said, it just keeps getting harder. Every 10 minutes, it gets harder to hack. Now, I have heard this myself where people will talk about, well, quantum computing. What about quantum computing in the future? That will be able to hack the current security of it. But there's already people who are thinking about this stuff and researching it. And that's what I love to hear about this, because again, with this misconception, so many people are like, what if somebody hacks it? What if somebody hacks it? But they fail to realize there is an entire group of people that are dedicating themselves all around the world to keeping this thing safe. So it's not like this thing is just, it maintains itself and it's secure on its own and it gets stronger every 10 minutes. But not only that, there are people dedicated to making sure that this thing is safe and making sure that it's good and it's fair and that it's equal and that we can all have access to it. So it's not just people trying to take it down. There are people that are trying to make this thing survive. And I really like that, because people don't really think about that side of it. It's always, well, what if somebody bad tries to, take it over? But there are good people out there that are protecting it as well. Now, there's another big misconception as well. And he talks of, what if governments try to attack it? And he says that this dark cloud has been over Bitcoin's head since its inception. Those attacks, or that thought process that what if the state attacks it, it's kind of starting to dwindle now. Like we see, again, this book was wrote in 2021, so it hadn't happened yet, but now here we are in 2024. China's starting to mine it. Russia's said that they're mining it. We got US president-elects talking about, we're not going to sell the stuff we have and we want to make Bitcoin made in America. The governments don't seem to be wanting to stop it now. It's more of kind of being pulled into it themselves. They're like, we can't stop this, so let's just get it. We have to, abide by the rules of the protocol. And instead of trying to stop it, they're kind of being pulled into it themselves. Only 15 years into the life cycle of Bitcoin, and now it's pulling nation states into it. Instead of them trying to ban it, they're now, again, trying to get their hands on it themselves. So he says that another misconception, or I guess, how do you stop Bitcoin? He says the only way to stop it is if there's a global coordinated attack from every country to go after the people who own the nodes. And good luck with that. First of all, nobody knows exactly who owns a node and is keeping this network secure. Second of all, that would mean that, America, Russia, China, all of these countries would have to come together at the round table and be like, hey, let's stop this thing. And they can't even get along with each other as is, let alone come together to stop this new system. So that's very highly unlikely that's probably going to happen. So again, in conclusion with this, as far as these misconceptions go, again, you can't stop it. It can't be hacked. It can't be taken down. It can't be banned. Every 10 minutes, it gets stronger. This thing is like a black hole. It's pulling the entire planet in. It's pulling people in. It's pulling institutions like BlackRock in. It's pulling countries in. This thing is probably going to be inevitable, and everybody eventually will come to this thing, and they will get sucked in. And so yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. Hit a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in that next one. Peace.